Tara.
And Mike.
And I'm Jill.
We're all from livingonadime.com. And today we are doing part 12 of Mom's story. Well, it's my story too. I was there.
Sort of.
What do you mean, sort of? I suffered through the freezing cold and all of the snow.
Listen to you.
So if you guys hear noise in the background, our two older kids are cooking breakfast, and so they're trying to be quiet, but if you hear a little bit of banging around, that's what it is. So, so one of the ways that Mom was able to live on $500 a month and raise two kids was she saved with everything. I mean, we pretty much bought absolutely nothing new but food.
Mm-hmm.
And even food we bought on clearance and marked down and that kind of thing. We tried to buy, I would say probably, wouldn't you say, 99% of the items we purchased was either used or marked down or something like that.
As a matter of fact, even like with clothes, I was thinking the other day, I thought, I was counting up. This is pathetic. For me being a 65-year-old woman, I could count on one hand how many outfits I'd ever bought brand new at a store. It was 5. And 3 of them was my going away outfit. Part of my going away outfit and honeymoon outfit.
So if any store wants to send Mom a gift card to go buy brand new clothes at their store, we'll document it. Send her a $1,000 gift card to go buy a new wardrobe. And
that's all the dresses I'd ever bought. Now I do buy new underwear, but as far as outside clothes, all of mine has either been hand-me-downs or I bought used.
Yeah.
But we're getting close to Halloween. I think by the time everybody's watching this, it'll be getting pretty close to Halloween, maybe. And I wanted to give everybody some tips today before we started on how to save. And this is the type of thing I used and did all the time. And I still do. You and I both still do this all the time. And so since we're getting closer to Halloween, the holidays, that type of thing, one thing people don't think about, everybody's wanting to know how to do it yourself. Christmas gifts and that, but what they don't think about is Christmas dinner and cookies and candies can get kind of expensive. So if you wait until the first week of December to start buying all the stuff you need for your Christmas dinner and baking, you can add a huge expense, for that month on top of buying presents. So what I suggest is I actually started last month buying stuff for December for our Christmas dinner and my Christmas baking. And a lot of it lasts a long time. And you, I think, got it too. They had at our grocery store sugar on sale for 99 cents for a 4-pound bag. And I went and bought all the sugar I was going to need for my gingerbread man and my Christmas cookies or candy or whatever I'm going to be making in September. And that was a good expense that I got in September, and I don't have to carry it over to December. And the 1st of November is a good time to buy a lot of stuff. Right after Halloween, they put like sweet potatoes and canned pumpkin, and a lot of flour and spices on sale. They put that on sale. Instead of waiting till December and buying those things, buy that stuff in November. Don't just think Thanksgiving I have to buy this stuff. Double it and buy it for your Christmas dinner too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and see, we buy the day after Halloween or the week after Halloween. We'll go and buy all the Halloween chocolates. So we use Hershey's candy bars in our $1 Million Fudge.
Yeah, see, that was the next thing on my list is I buy the Hershey's candy bars then to do the fudge. You can also, if you have desserts you're going to use that you need chopped up chocolate, you can do that. We buy Rolos to do the little pretzels, the little round pretzels.
But we buy the Halloween ones.
Yeah.
On clearance afterwards. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They're not going to notice the difference when you unwrap the candy.
No, and they last forever.
Yeah.
Candies and that stuff will last forever. Like a year or two, even more. So caramels, I buy a lot of caramels after Halloween because they tend to put those on sale really cheap. And what I do with the caramels is like you were showing your turtles the other day on the video. You can use them for that type of thing. But I also take the caramels. They're great for just like a little stocking stuffer. Buying these bags of candy too for very little. I buy each one of the grandkids. I hope BJ and Ellie aren't listening, but I sometimes buy their favorite candy after Halloween, and they get, when they're little especially, to get a whole big bag, of candy. And I'll buy them their bag of candy and wrap it up and give it to them for Christmas then, which saves me a lot. And I buy, even if our family's gotten used to, and they kind of laugh about it, that they get orange wrapped candy for Christmas. I mean, that's just the way we do. We don't think anything about it. But
and one thing I did also is my son's birthday is 3 days after Halloween. And one year they happened to have Hershey's Kisses on clearance for 50 cents a bag. And we were having his first birthday party ever. We do not have a birthday party every year for the kids. But this year was his first birthday party we ever had with friends. Mm-hmm. And we did a treasure hunt. And I took those bags of Hershey's Kisses and I bought one for each kid and put it in the treasure box at the end. And it cost me like $4 for all the kids to have their own huge bag of Hershey's Kisses. They thought that was the coolest thing. Now, the parents probably didn't appreciate me, but the kids thought that was the coolest thing ever. So, think of ahead.
Big impact, yeah.
Or if you give... Oh, go ahead.
What kind of an experience was that for the kids, though?
They loved it. I know, exactly. And,
referring to the last video.
Yeah. And, think about that. If you have older teenagers or whatever that you give them money, what we do is we'll buy, close your ears, BJ, we'll buy the candy on clearance on Halloween for $1, and then we'll wrap in $1 bills their candy for their Christmas present or something. And we're going to do some more videos on that. But
on how to do those things.
Don't spend more money if you don't need to.
Yeah, and like the caramels too, I take the caramels now and I add a whole bunch of water to them and soften them, stick them in the microwave and warm them up, and I make caramel sauce. Yeah. Because there's a lot of recipes now that call for caramel sauce and desserts that you need caramel sauce, or on just to top on ice cream and things like that. Or if you make hot fudge, you can pour the caramel sauce on there and do that. So get a lot of the caramels and you can save them. Another thing, if you have a vacuum sealer, you can vacuum seal that candy and it will last like 4 years or more in there. So we had a tornado one time, and this neighbor later, I didn't know who she was, but she asked if her and her grandson could stay down in the tornado. And it was just right after Halloween, or I forget when it was. It must have been after Easter. And I had all these jars full of candy that I vacuum sealed lined up, and I think that little boy thought he died and gone to heaven because I had jar after jar of candy stacked up with vacuum sealed. So you can vacuum seal, but you don't have to limit it to candy, because do you remember, Tawra, that year we bought, I don't know, they were about 3 foot tall. They were huge, these huge bags of chips. They were bagged. You remember that?
I remember that. Yeah, that was crazy.
There were like, I think 35 bags of these little bags of chips or more in this big, it took up half the shopping cart, just one bag did. And they were on sale for like $1. And that was after Halloween. What they'd done, they were going to give them out for trick-or-treating instead of the candy. But nobody bought these big bags of chips, so we got those at Walgreens, huge bags of chips. Those were good besides the kids' school lunches. They had pretzels in there that you can do, like with the roll things, or Chex Mix, you know what I mean, and that type of thing. So look at things like that. Another thing I bought one year after Halloween was the candy melts that you dip the candy in. Well, they had a ton of orange candy melts. Of course, they were orange, and nobody wanted orange candy melts for the Christmas candy, but all that I did was, I think it was like 25 cents a bag for these.
And those things are usually $3.50 to $4 a bag.
Oh, yeah. And they were Wiltons, the goods, the nicer kind. And I took, you have to use either gel or powdered
food coloring.
Food coloring. And I just mixed that in with the melted orange candy melts, and it turned it red. They were orange, and just add a little bit red to it, made it red, and so we had stuff to dip our candy in after Christmas. Oh, apple cider packets. I'm seeing now a lot of times in with the candy the packets of apple cider. I don't like those really well, but you can buy them to use like either for kids' lunch, stocking stuffers, but if you need to, put them in the crock pot and put the liquid in with them and add your own spices, and that'll perk up the the packaged stuff a little bit if you want to do that. Oh, and fruit roll-ups. They do a ton of fruit roll-ups. They make great stocking stuffers, and like Tara was talking about with adding the money to them.
And that's what we do. We get consumable things for the big guy that he always ends up leaving them consumable things, and they love things like the fruit roll-ups that we don't ever buy them. We don't buy fruit roll-ups. We don't buy fruit candies for the kids. Nothing like that. On a regular basis. That is a treat that they only get from Santa or the Easter Bunny. That's the only time they get those treats unless they want to spend their own money on it. And so, like 2 years ago, I found boxes of fruit roll-ups for $0.25. I cleaned them out. I bought every single one they had. I probably got, I had to have gotten 30 boxes of them. But the kids loved them, and I gave each of them, like 1 or 2 boxes for their birthday or whatever, And so don't buy your kids this stuff all the time.
Then it's a treat.
For ours, then it's a treat, Now they may say differently, but that's the way I'm going to look at it.
And another thing, it's a big impact to them, like a big, huge impact for very little money for you. Mm-hmm. That's how we do all of our Christmas stuff. We don't spend a whole lot of money, but we have something that seems like a big thing.
Yeah.
Another thing to check out after Halloween is pumpkins. Do you remember, was it like 2 years ago or something, after Halloween, that guy at the pumpkin farm, you went back there for some reason, and he gave you all these pumpkins for free after Halloween because he said they're just going to rot on the vine, right? Remember that?
So what happened was we went 3 days before Halloween to go to the corn maze right over here by our house. Mm-hmm. Well, it was closed. And the guy came out and said, he said it's closed. He said we got too much rain and it's just a mud pit. But he said, if you guys want to go through, I don't care. But I'll just warn you, you might sink down a foot or so into the mud. Mm-hmm. Well, so what
bring your snowshoes.
Yeah. So the boys were like, oh, please, Mom, please, please, please. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. Okay. So I had them walk kind of straddling through the whole maze. Kind of straddling. Did you go on that one, BJ? That corn maze where it was too muddy and it was closed, so they let us go in? Was that the one that you went on? I know it was at least the littler David and Jack, but so we went through the whole corn maze. We went through 3 or 4 times because nobody was there, and he said, oh, whatever. And we were done, and he had tons of pumpkins. I mean, all these tons and tons and tons of pumpkins. And I said, well, and I was just kind of chatting with him, and I said, well, what are you doing with all these pumpkins? He said, oh, we sell them to the farmers, and they give them as cow feed. And he said, they're really nutritious for cow feed. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. And he said, oh, here, take whatever you want. We got these huge pumpkins for free. We couldn't even, he had to help us carry them to the car. The boys were just, and we did it all for free. Yeah. Everyone says you don't have experiences because we don't go on vacation and stuff. But,
we have experiences.
Well, and what we did with those, you'll think, well, they just rot, and what good are those pumpkins? But I brought them all home with me then, right after Tara got them. I brought them home with me and roasted the pumpkin seeds. So we had tons of pumpkin seeds that year. And then I cooked it and everything and dehydrated in the dehydrator. And I still have vacuum sealed I made it into a powder, a pumpkin powder that I use for baking pies or that type of thing, or pumpkin rolls. And so I dehydrated all those pumpkins, tons of them. As a matter of fact, then the next summer, I didn't think some of it I had to throw in the compost, so the stems in a few little pieces. And on top of that, the next summer, I had this huge pumpkin vine growing in my compost pile just on its own free will, and I got a couple of little pumpkins off of them from
We got
those.
our use out of those, didn't we?
Huh?
We really got our money's worth out of those.
We did. We really got a lot of use out of them. But then don't just look for food items. I went one year to Joann Fabrics, and they had these really cute, they were Halloween socks. They were black and purple striped knee highs, and this cute fringe on them. And they had them for like, I think they were like 50 cents. It was later, it was closer in November, and so they had these on clearance to get rid of. Well, 50 cents for a pair of knee-high socks was not bad, and my neighbor was with me, and she was going to a family retreat and needed a gag gift. So she got a couple of them for a gag gift for 50 cents. That wasn't bad, and she said that was the most popular gift at the family reunion, was so silly. Everybody wanted those silly knee-high knee socks. So you can look, if you're going to wear your socks under your boots all winter long, look for the socks like that really cheap at places like Joann Fabrics and things that they, even though they're Halloween, you know, when they go.
Even not if you're not wearing them under your boots, just get them and be silly and have fun. If it's, if it's okay with your dress code or whatever. But yeah.
I wear fun. I have a pair of socks that have big old smiley faces on it, and every time the doctor has to go look at my foot or something for neuropathy, I have these silly socks on with the smiley face on them. He probably wonders about. He's very straight-laced. My doctor is very straight-laced, and I just try real hard to think of something to make him laugh each time because he's just very kind of uptight. But anyway,
that's like my doctor when we left Kansas, Dr. Dirksen.
Oh, yeah.
He was very straight-laced, very to the
So
point and everything. And when the last time I went to see him before we left, I made a little plaque for him because one time he told me, because I was always asking, okay, what about this to help my chronic fatigue syndrome, or what about this to help my fibromyalgia? And I know he's just always shaking his head. And one day he told me, he said, I'm a doctor, not a miracle worker. And so the last day when we were moving from Kansas to here, I got a 25-cent frame, printed it out on the computer, got a little bow, and I put on there, I'm a doctor, not a miracle worker, and I gave that to him as a gift. I have never seen the man laugh so hard. He said, oh, this is the best gift ever. I just love this. And I thought, it doesn't cost a lot of money to make people happy and laugh and try,
Part of that is doing something personal. Everybody just stews and worries over Christmas presents. What do you do to not spend any money? He would have loved getting that for like a Christmas present.
Yeah.
Because it has meaning to them. It really does.
Yeah. Or even like Mike, every time he goes anywhere, everyone now is like, oh, you mean, is that your husband, the guy that's always smiling all the time? Or, he makes sure he smiles and talks to people. Yeah. And even though there's time I want to thump him over the head and say, let's go, we got an appointment.
You're on one side, his mother-in-law's on the other side.
But I know everybody at the grocery store by name, and at McDonald's, and all I get at McDonald's is tea or coffee, but everybody there knows me by name, and I know everybody at the library by name.
Yeah.
So those are places where I spend a lot of time.
It doesn't, how much does it cost you to be nice, or to do these little things like that? It's not that, we always think in terms of money, and maybe even for Christmas presents, that's what we need to get out of the idea of, in terms of what expensive present can I get, and think more what kind of a personal present can I get for them.
It truly is more thinking about the person than thinking
knowing
about
the person. And that goes back to trying to learn and know about people, get to know people instead of just ignoring them. And then you can do that easier at Christmas.
Yeah.
One other thing, too, that you can find after Halloween, and this is a little bit off the gifts idea, but look for, whether it's after Thanksgiving or Halloween or Christmas or any time, any holiday, look for household items like throw rugs, dish towels, dish rags. For example, I had a kitchen that was done in greens and golds and browns at one point, and after Thanksgiving they had orange and gold and brown rugs on sale, and green ones. And so I got my throw rugs for almost nothing. and dish towels and that. And then one year I had a red kitchen, a red and white kitchen. Well, after Christmas, I could pick out throw rugs, and
Towels, yep.
get your stuff like that. And sometimes they make good Christmas presents. Like if I knew what they wanted, Ellie's getting ready to move out, sometime in the next year or so. It would be a perfect gift for me to go buy the household items to give her a gift, for something on that. So that's one way to save money.
Yeah. Yeah, is to buy after Halloween. And so I know we were getting started on part 12, but we kind of really got into the Halloween, which is fine. No, it's fine. So we're going to stop here, and then we're going to record part 12 because I think that's really good information that people need to, to know. That's how you were able to live on $500
that's the main reason. You have to change your way of thinking and looking at this stuff, and keep your eyes open for those. When you go after Halloween, just don't sort of scan the candy. Look carefully, are there pencils, are the little erasers, little gadgets that I could put in a stocking stuffer. Just open your eyes up and really start looking at things.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And like for me, last year or the year before, they had gummy eyeballs and gummy brains and all this kind of thing after Halloween for like 50 cents. Well, I didn't think they'd eat them or anything, but I have 3 boys, and I knew all of them would think that was just, a funky gift. And so I bought the brains and eyeballs for a Christmas present. Well, it was a Halloween brains and eyeballs, but they just thought it was funny getting brains and eyeballs. So,
but
they didn't eat them. I ended up eating them because they were jelly candies.
But you know what? Even after you ate all those brains and eyeballs and everything, you gave me the jars.
Yeah.
And those were the coolest jars. They were little containers, just perfect little jars. So then we used it even more because I love those jars to put stuff in. They're just the perfect size, to put like a quarter cup of food or to
lotion
put things in the crafts, like beads and stuff like that. So those eyeballs really went the whole gamut.
All right. Well, visit us at livingonadime.com. Mom's book, 500 Ways I Lived on $500 a Month. It's in stock in the print version right now as of this taping, but I can't guarantee how long it'll be in print. And once it goes into print, once we run out of these, we are going to only do the ebook after that. But they're half price right now, so I think it's about $6 or so.
$6.48.
Oh, so see, $6.48. So go to livingonadime.com, click on our store, or click, if you're on a mobile device, at the top, click here for our books, and that's where you can find it. All right, so we're going to be back with part 12, and we will see you later.